Hello there, Optimus Prime here. This week I've decided to take a slightly different tack. I've been concentrating mostly on Master of the Universe Origins for the last few videos, and I still have a fair chunk of Master of the Universe figures that I want to do videos on. Hopefully I'll get a couple more of those done this weekend. So, change of tack. Let's go for something else. It's another staple of 80s nostalgia, fun and hit. Some G.I. Joe Classified Series figures. I'm going to do some reviews of some of the retro figures, but I'm going to save those for a couple of weeks and yeah, hit those then. In the meantime, I'm going to start my reviews of Classified Series figures with Major Bludd, who is the most recent figure, I think. I'm not sure if there's an alternate roadblock that I believe has just come out, but the most recent figure that I've got anyway. So, let's activate booth mode and have a look at Major Bludd. So, here we have G.I. Joe Classified Series Major Bludd, pre-released from his plastic prison, unlike his Cobra Viper and Cobra Infantry compatriots behind him. I got impatient and unboxed him a little while ago. He hasn't quite made it to my G.I. Joe Classified shelf yet, but he will get there shortly. So let's have a quick look. He is fairly typical of the G.I. Joe Classified line in terms of poseability and articulation. They have pretty much the same sort of body types as Marvel Legends figures and Star Wars Black Series, which is sort of the staple for the Hasbro 6-inch lines. Mr. Bludd here has some really nice quiet details, but just for the sake of articulation, you've got full range of motion in the shoulders. There's a pivot inside his chest, which means you can move his arms slightly forward to be able to sort of grip guns at the front. He's got double shoulder joint, double elbow joint, a pivot at his shoulder, between his shoulder and his elbow, or shelbow as I like to call it, and wrist articulation. Fingers don't, obviously. With legs, there's a fairly good range of motion in the hips. There's a thigh swivel, double knee, so you can do that if you'd want to. Oops, pop that back. And full range of motion in the ankles, ankle pivot, which is obviously very useful for standing up these dudes, and a bit of a pivot that way. And there's also a calf or shin, that bit of the leg swivel. So lots of movement there. There is an ab crunch, which is nigh on useless when you've got body armor. A lot of G.I. Joe Classified figures do have this sort of rubberized body armor over the main sculpting details of their body, which makes having an ab crunch mostly useless. So I'm not really sure what the obsession with this is. It looks pretty cool though, and there is enough of a gap at the back, so I suppose you can do a back crunch. No, that's just his waist. And again, waist. A bit of movement that way, and a bit of a uppy downy swivel. And he's got a robotic arm, which pose-wise is identical to his real arm. And the heads, again, like most of the other Hasbro 6-inch figures, it has sort of ball-jointed head on a neck, and the neck is jointed separately, so you've got a little bit of play there, and whatever. But it's sort of impeded a wee bit by his high neck on his body armor and his helmet. I don't quite know how well I can. Oops. Let's have that off. Oops. Get back on there. There we go. Stuck to my fingers. Let's see if I can get this nicely in focus. Yes, there we go. The face sculpt and paint job on the face of this figure is absolutely stunning. I think it's the best example from the G.I. Joe range so far. Let's pop his helmet off so you can get a bit of a better look. The scars on this dude are amazing. The paintwork with the face printing technology that they're employing these days is just, it's another level compared to the sort of stuff that you had only a few years ago. The sort of the stubble, you can see the sort of 5 o'clock shadow coming along there. His eye, well, the eye that's not eye patched, is really good looking. His teeth, his lips, everything. It's just the sculpting and the paint job on this face is just, it's something else. I'm really impressed. And a little grey streak in his mohawk there. Yeah, there's not really a lot else I can say about that. It just looks wicked. It's a lot better than sort of the old standard just flesh coloured plastic with a couple of eyes painted on and possibly a little bit of black for his eye patch. Anyway, so he comes with a bunch of dog tags with people that he's either murdered or something. I'm not entirely sure of I'm not really too sure of the backstory or story for Major Bludd. He wasn't a figure that I had when I was a kid, and I don't massively remember a huge amount of him having much play in the comics, but my memory is fuzzy of the G.I. Joe comics and the TV show for that matter. I loved the figures, but I didn't massively follow the rest of the stuff. So on his robotic arm, you've got loads of really nice looking detailing on there. It's a pretty cool looking robot arm. It's pretty cool. It's got the Mars logo. Mars Arms being Destro's arms dealing company. At least I think it is. I know it was in the fun but terrible early 2000s movie. Early 2000s, or was it like 2010? Who knows? It was a while ago. Right, so let's have a quick look at his accessories. So other than the hat that we've already, or helmet I suppose rather than hat, and the helmet itself just looks pretty cool. It's sort of a riff on the normal Cobra Trooper helmet, but it's got this nice little death spike at the front there, and it just gives him a really cool, almost medieval, badass look. It's really sweet. The body armor's cool. It's, as I said, rubberized. Yep, he's got this belt and hip holster, which holds his holds well his sort of Magnum styled hand cannon. Let's just pop him down for a sec. Stay still. Get that in focus. Yeah, it's pretty cool. One of the big criticisms of these figures originally was that all of the weapons that they came with were basically, well, they were actually Nerf guns. They used Nerf guns as the model for all of the armaments, and a lot of the fans are like, why can't we just have real guns? I get the idea. The original idea with the classified lines was a slight reimagining of the G.I. Joes and Cobra, and sort of starting it in the near future with some sort of semi-futuristic weaponry. And hey, if you've got a company that produces semi-futuristic looking weaponry in the term of Nerf guns, why not use them as the basis of the weapons? But people didn't like it, so they sort of moved away from that and gone for slightly more realistic ones. And some of the more recent figures have just got standard real world weapons. He's got this pistol, which is modelled after the gun he came with originally, and he also has his backpack with 2 removable rockets. What's really cool is if you take this off here, let's just pop him there. Now, I was about to say he's a really stable figure who stood up quite well when left to pose. And luckily he has actually done that rather than falling over instantly. But anyway, back to this. So, if we can see this okay. So, it's not too bad. So the rockets actually, or missiles, actually fit into the front of his gun. So he has a rocket pistol which you can pop into his hand. I do find them quite difficult to get into the hands on these figures quite often, but it's mostly getting... Oh, actually, okay. What I was going to say was getting these guns into the figure's hands and getting the trigger fingers around the trigger guard is really tricky. And then he proved me wrong and went straight away, instantly, easy peasy. Oh, look, he's got a little Cobra symbol in his hand. I hadn't noticed that. Nice, nice, nice. So he can now hold his rocket pistol, although probably do a bit more of a badass pose than that, seeing as he's looking a bit limp. There we go. Hold it up, ready to fire away and destroy some G.I. Joes. And yeah, so that is Major Bludd. On the whole, I've really enjoyed the G.I. Joe Classified series so far. There's some really cracking figures. One of the criticisms has been that they just constantly repaint the same figures, but that's Hasbro for you. So Roadblock has had 3 versions with one mold and has now had another version with a new mold. There were some remolded parts on one of the versions, but other than that, yeah, there's been 4 versions of Roadblock. There's been 3 versions of Cobra Commander, there's been 2 versions of Destro, but we've only scratched the surface on some of the other characters. So whenever they release a new character like Major Bludd, it is cause for somewhat of a celebration. Hopefully this line will continue, and hopefully we'll get some really nice new figures. 4 figures due shortly, one of which is another version of Roadblock, another version of Snake Eyes, Barbecue, who is my all-time favourite G.I. Joe, which I'll do a video about as soon as he comes around, and there was one other, there's a Breaker on his motorcycle, who also looks really quite sweet. I'm hoping this is actually, there we go, a bit more focus. I probably just shot the last part of that completely out of focus. I do apologise. It's not easy to see my phone when I'm recording like this, because I'm half blind. So there we go. Right, well, I'm going to stop waffling about Major Bludd. I hope you... Oh, no, I'm not going to stop waffling about Major Bludd because I have something to point out. So this figure, although it is a majoritively new mould, does actually have the same body and basic figure as the Cobra Trooper. Same legs, you can possibly make out that it's the same details on the legs, and his body armour's covering up the body, obviously. But again, it's pretty much the same figure, which actually isn't too much of an issue, seeing as Major Bludd is basically in charge of the Cobra Troopers. So I'm going to give that a pass. Why wouldn't he have similar body armour to them? Anyway, that has been Major Bludd. I hope you have enjoyed my wafflings, and yeah, I'll be back shortly with more videos about stuff. Have fun.
on plastic.